Hello, this is Carol May Whittick with Higher Energetic Resonance Inspirations. It is my intention with this podcast to share with you words and practices that have assisted me over the years in the hope that they may offer something to you. Even though these are challenging times, we're being presented with an opportunity for immense growth. Imagine the world that we can create if each of us commits to our own healing. Each week, I'll speak out about what I'm seeing in society, how the collective is reacting or responding, and bringing forward what I hope will be resources, writings, anything that may offer perspectives that will be helpful for you and for us all. This is by no means definitive. Let it be known I'm not your guru. I'm just simply one person who feels called to serve you in my own way at this time. So let's start with the first episode. So straight out the gate, I'm going to start with a nice, big, juicy subject. This is forgiveness. My thoughts about this and to launch this program with this topic was inspired by the article and then also the response to the article that came from The Atlantic that was written by Emily Oster, and it was headlined, "Let's declare a pandemic amnesty. We need to forgive one another for what we did and said when we were in the dark about COVID." Looking deeper into the article, my thoughts on it were that there was no real admission of guilt. There was still an unwillingness for the people who were the ones pointing the finger at those that actually chose to take a stand against mandates and actually do the research. And it's that whole phrase has just become so laden and charged, unfortunately. But to really do the research and ask questions as to why things were the way they were, there was so much fear around. And what it seemed to do is just allow people to behave in the most disgusting ways, really. I feel that pretty much everybody, whichever side of the narrative you fall on, looked at their nearest and dearest, their friends, family, colleagues, and even to an extent the power structures across the world, the medical structures around the world, with fresh eyes, because people behaved in a way that was breathtaking in many ways. And the response, for the most part, to should we declare a pandemic amnesty was a resounding no. And it should be no surprise, really, that the answer was almost exclusively no, because I don't believe the people choosing to oppose the sentiment of the article are mean-spirited. They are good, heart-centered people who knew something was wrong and sounded the alarm and tried to alert their friends and family to what they saw. Over the time, more people have, the penny has dropped with more people. So they're able to see that, yeah, this was not right, and it will go down in history, however we get out of this period, as the greatest fraud perpetuated on humankind. Some people may actually go to the grave without ever realising that. To say that we were in the dark about COVID, we were not in the dark. The information was there. It was so obvious to those who could see it. It was the darkness came from those who chose to bury their heads. And if you forgive the imagery, but as a result, they left their back ends exposed and they were shafted by the propaganda. And many who were very clear about the truth, but as a result suffered mistreatment for voicing their views, are still very hurt and very angry about that, and haven't got to a point of being able to sit in a space of forgiveness and allowing, because it's hard especially when people are still trying to fudge around what went on. We have to remember that people were and are still cancelled. Millions of people lost their income and their businesses. multiple relationships exploded. The elderly were literally locked away from their families, and many of them dying alone. And the question of what has created their deaths is, to so many, not a question, but then to others is just too heinous to even contemplate. And that was just the start. That was just at the beginning with the whole lockdown situation and not being allowed to go anywhere or social distance and everything like that. And then when it came, the masks came in, and then we had the coercion and the mandate for the shots. Those who could see and those who were researching, those who really realised what were going on, just sounded the alarm louder, and the fear of those who were being led by the media and their favourite celebrities and their local medical professionals, in quotation marks, allowed for... didn't want to ask any questions. And personally, I had experience of that. It wasn't too... I mean, I lost a lot of income that year, and I'm still kind of playing catch up in terms of where I wanted to be. I'm still alive and I'm still moving forward, but I had plans for that year, and it didn't kind of play out the way that I wanted to, and I had to kind of pause, and I suppose everyone did, so that's no biggie. But towards the end of last year, October, November 2021, when I was looking for a new place to live, it was almost impossible to get even a viewing if I didn't come with papers. Can you believe this, in the UK? And one where I came really close and had sat with the landlady for quite a few hours, actually, and we'd got on perfectly well, it had seemed, had chosen not to take me on, even though I was the best one there in terms of the person that she got on the most, simply because she'd spoken to her doctor, her oncologist even, because she'd had a cancer experience, and decided that I was too much of a danger. So I experienced that happening. And it was all because of fear, because even when we had that conversation and I said to her, well, it was towards the end of the day, she's like, oh, I just need to ask you, are you vaccinated? And I said no, and I have no intention of being. And I kept it really, really, really neutral in that I said, well, it's just a bit quick, and, just knowing what I know about vaccinations over the years and treatments and experimentation on populations, I'm just a bit reticent, so I'll just kind of wait. I didn't really go into the whole thing. But, I wonder where she's at and what she's feeling now, especially seeing the effects that those shots are actually starting to have on people, particularly those that have experienced cancers previously. It's not great. So it's hard to then have a year or so later someone pop up and go, oh, well, we didn't know. Should we just kind of brush that under the carpet and expect nobody to kind of hold them to account and go, hang on a moment, remember what you did in the name of that. Remember the names that you called people, the hurt that you called. This never happened to me, but I saw instances of people being required to take tests or show papers just to go around and have a Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner with their own family. I mean, the idea of that is so horrendous. So imagine being pushed out from your own family unit because you're taking a stance on something that you can see. And then on top of that, seeing your family members in fear, falling for it, and making quite possibly the most dangerous and fatal decision that they've ever made in their lives. So, yeah, when people come out and say, can you forgive us? Most people are like, no. And it's going to be a hard one, but it's what is forgiveness and what does forgiveness mean? I think sometimes with forgiveness we think that if I forgive somebody, I'm letting them off the hook. I'm not acknowledging the pain that they caused. I'm not, they'll get away scot-free. And it's not so much that, it's just finding a space of breaking our charge on them so that we're not feeling that anger and reliving the pain. Because in my own personal experience, I have watched people hold on to things that happened to them 10, 20, 30 years ago, even more, and watch the way that it has deteriorated their health, their mental well-being, their physical well-being, and to an extent their spiritual well-being as well. It's not, it can't be easy to live in that space and in that mindset, and also it's not easy to witness. So we feel at the least there needs to be an admission of ignorance, that people were lashing out in fear, for them to acknowledge that maybe the other had a point, even if they can't get to the point of saying you were right. But what I'm noticing is there is a distinct lack of maturity in the psyche of the average adult in the world. And that makes it easy for them to be manipulated, because they're always looking for external validation, and that the external validation came from doing the right thing, even though possibly underneath it there'd be part of you going, is this the right thing for me to do? If I'm having respiratory issues, why am I going to further block my breathing apparatus? Does that make sense? And to hold your hand up and go, I was wrong, I made a mistake, in the name of that is hard. Facing up to your errors is highly uncomfortable. And I mean, even when we know in our own private times that we've made mistakes, we've made errors, we've hurt people, it's painful to actually acknowledge that. So then for people who were very vocal about it, so they lashed out in public, they sent damning messages that people have probably still got on their phones, they mock people on social media. That kind of attacking, are they the kind of people that hold the strength of character to admit their wrongs in public too? Over time, as more people wake up, people are realising that they were sold a bill of goods. Even if they don't want to outwardly admit it, this thing has gone on for too long, and things just don't feel right. It's not over, it's not normal, it's not settled yet. And they keep defending the lie by attacking and vilifying others, taking responsibility and facing up to the reality of what they've done in the face of fear. And the fear that controlled them it's a big ask. And for us who suffered at the result of people who attacked us through fear, so let's just kind of keep it at this moment with friends and family and the fallout that we had with our peers, as opposed to the control system that foisted this on to humanity. Because the only way I feel that we're going to turn and overturn that is to unite collectively. But that only happens when we can collectively come together. And at the moment, there's still the divide on this and many other things as well. So can we forgive those people because they were foolish? So we start there. And it's not for their sakes but our own. It's to release the charge their behaviour has on us, and to be able to live unencumbered by any hatred and bitterness. So I just want to read a few things that I found when I was just looking around and seeing how people related to forgiveness and what we can learn and what we can take from this. So this comes from the Mayo Clinic, their definition of forgiveness. Forgiveness means different things to different people. Generally, however, it involves a decision to let go of resentment and thoughts of revenge. The act that hurt or offended you might always be with you, but forgiveness can lessen its grip on you and help you free from the control of the person who harmed you. Forgiveness can even lead to feelings of understanding, empathy, and compassion for the one who hurt you. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or excusing the harm done to you or making up with the person who caused the harm. Forgiveness brings a kind of peace that helps you go on with life. And talking about the benefits of forgiving someone, letting go of grudges and bitterness can make way for improved health and peace of mind. Forgiveness can lead to healthier relationships, improved mental health, less anxiety, stress and hostility, lower blood pressure, fewer symptoms of depression, a stronger immune system, improved heart health, improved self-esteem. How do we reach a state of forgiveness? Recognize the value of forgiveness, how it can improve your life. Identify what needs healing, who needs to be forgiven and for what. Consider joining a support group or seeking a counsellor. And to just kind of tag on to that, I think the idea of there being a support group or support groups or some sort of connection with people who need to work through forgiveness. Maybe we're all in the same boat and we're just like, I can't forget what that person said to me on Facebook, and everyone came in and it just turned into these things. They're still there if we've not dealt with them, if we've not kind of released the charge of them, if we've not received an apology, which for the most part, I think we just have to kind of forget that we're ever going to really receive any apology. And also move away from your role as a victim and release the control and the power the offending person and situation has had in your life. As again, I said, it's hard. If you had an elderly parent who had to die alone, how do you forgive that? Where do you start? You want justice for that. You want justice for your parent and you want peace in yourself. So how do we find a point of looking at the situation that we're in, the pain that has been perpetuated on everyone on ground level, upwards and downwards? If we keep going around with that in our heart, what becomes of us? And then there was something else that I found out about that I thought was kind of interesting. It's a term that I've never heard before, or I've just starting to hear. Toxic forgiveness, what it means and why it's unhealthy for relationships. And this is asking the question, do you forgive quickly and pretend to forget people's mistakes? So there's this kind of in-between part where we can't just kind of brush it off and pretend that it had no effect on us. We do have to acknowledge that there is an effect on us because that's healing for us. We can't pretend that we weren't hurt in order just to be in love and light. We're bypassing the lesson, the opportunity that this is bringing to us. So where's this from? This is from Hindustan Times, I think. I've got it right. And just a couple of sentences from that was, pretending that things are okay and accepting people's fault without them mending their ways could do more harm than good, as per experts. Forgiveness can be healing, but it can be toxic too in certain situations, when people either rush through the process or do not understand the abusive pattern it has brought into their life. Repeated event followed by an apology is the most common and toxic pattern that one can invite in their life. And anyone who's had the pleasure of dealing with any kind of abusive personality in their relationships and personal life will recognise that situation. Toxic forgiveness ultimately is people not forgiving and forgetting, they are forgetting and repressing. Toxic forgiveness is an unhealthy way that people pretend to be unharmed over it and forgetful of the offence. Forgiving to get the peace or people-pleasing is not healthy for your mental health or relationships. So wherever we go in this kind of forgiveness spectrum is either we're forgiving or not forgiving, or we're doing toxic forgiveness. It always comes back to the choice that we make will affect our health, our mental health, our spiritual health. So if you know me, you know that I am a lover of quotes and books and just constant learning and finding out different perspectives or deeper writings on this. And I found just some pieces on forgiveness, and I'll just read a few for you. Just things for you to think about, for you to meditate on, and maybe there's something within any of these things that will help you. I'll start with David Rico, who is an author whose books I've been really diving into recently, particularly on the subject of love within relationships and self-love. And just in kind of listening to his books and incorporating the exercises and the practices that he suggests, I've noticed amazing shifts and new awareness in my own life. So be prepared. I'm going to be sharing some of that down the line. But this one is just a short quote from him. From David Rico in Shadow Dance: "The capacity to forgive is the capacity to let go of ego." From John O'Donoghue in Eternal Echoes: "Forgiveness is one of the really difficult things in life. The logic of receiving hurt seems to run in the direction of never forgetting either the hurt or the hurter. When you forgive, some deeper divine generosity takes over you. When you can forgive, you are free. When you cannot forgive, you are the prisoner of the hurt done to you. If you are really disappointed in someone, you become embittered. You become incarcerated inside that feeling. Only the grace of forgiveness can break the straight logic of hurt and embitterment." This is from Jane Vineyard in Embracing the World. "Think of someone in your life you need to forgive, someone who has hurt you, or a loved one physically, emotionally, or spiritually. Or ask yourself if there is something you need to be forgiven for. In either case, you may be at the beginning of the forgiveness process, or you may already be engaged in forgiving yourself or forgiving another. Take your desire to forgive to God, speaking from your heart, asking for help, sharing all you feel. You may wish to turn to the Psalms, write, draw, or dance your prayer, or sit silently, opening yourself to God's mercy. However you pray, remember that the liberation you experience and the peace you gradually discover in your heart through forgiveness will bring freedom and peace to others. Your prayers are one step towards healing a broken world." This from L. Gregory Jones in Practicing Our Faith. "The practice of forgiveness is not only or even primarily a way of dealing with guilt. Instead, its central goal is to reconcile, to restore communion with God, with one another, and with the whole creation." And this from Satish Kumar in Path Without Destination. "It was August 1979, my birthday month, as well as the month of Sanvatsari, the great Jain festival of forgiveness. During this month, all Jains celebrate the annual event of total reconciliation by forgiving and begging forgiveness of all creatures. This I had been taught as a way of healing wounded relationships. If I had harmed any man or woman, any animal or plant, I begged their forgiveness. If I had knowingly or unknowingly shown any disrespect or disregard for humans and non-humans, I sought their forgiveness. Through this act, I retrieved all my offensive and careless words, thoughts, and deeds. In a similar spirit, if I had been hurt by anyone in any way, I forgave them totally and utterly. I declared my friendship with all beings. I had no enemy." From Sylvia Bornstein in It's Easier Than You Think. "Direct loving kindness or sending goodwill towards people we feel very good about is usually easy to do. Directing your goodwill to your grudgeless people is hard to do. What makes it possible is recalling at least one positive thing about each person on the list, the remembrance of which opens your heart. The key is forgiveness. To do anything less is painful." A quote from Robert Assagioli: "Without forgiveness, life is governed by an endless cycle of resentment and retaliation." And from the Bhagavad Gita: "If you want to see the brave, look to those who can forgive. If you want to see the heroic, look to those that can love in return for hatred. So I hope in listening to those quotes and just my thoughts with regards to this, that there are things that maybe you can take on and think about, journal, meditate, research, or ignore. Is there's no reason why you have to, but just seeing where we're going now and with what we're really going to have to deal with going forward. If we can find a space in there somewhere to even just forgive people who have hurt us because of their ignorance, maybe consider that it must be hard to realise that you were wrong, really wrong, publicly wrong, and also righteously wrong. And what you did was cause so much pain and hurt to people. And we're all going to need each other going forward. We all need to unite and really direct that energy that we're using to kind of carve up against each other to create something new. And what I want to do to close out this program is leave you with one of my meditations, the Dark to Light meditation. So this is a breathing practice, and it's very apt for this time. We find ourselves kind of really pondering what is going on. And as we speak now across the world, we're really just trying to work out what's going to happen when it comes to the financial situation. Where are we going to be in 3-6 months' time, especially as we go through winter? And I'm in Europe, and there's threats of blackouts, and the energy costs are just multiplying by the day. So we're going to be tested further, and the last thing we need to do is be fighting, at least fighting within ourselves. So I'll leave you with that after I finish, and just say, if you do want to reach out to me with any questions or share your experiences, please do. You can email me at info@carolmaywhittick.com. That's carolmaywhittick.com. On social media, Carol May Whittick on Facebook, on Instagram, Casmic, and on Telegram, Her Conversations and Inspirations. Enjoy the meditation. Our search for truth uncovers the darkness of this world. We learn of evils that can traumatize us and fill us with despondency and fear. As we discover the world is nothing like we have believed, grasping the enormity of this deception can be overwhelming. The awakened find themselves in a distressing position. We watch the unfolding of the plans they have for us, and then try to alert our loved ones who are still deep in a slumber, or unable or unwilling to comprehend what we see, and potentially sealing their fate because of their ignorance. The future seems uncertain, and oftentimes the burden weighs heavily on our hearts and lingers in our spirits. Yet we must remember that good things are still happening. New life is being created every day. Possibilities exist in every moment. All is being exposed to be transmuted. If you're hearing this message, know that your role is to be an example. As the world changes and the old structures destroy themselves, more people will wake up. They will be scared and disorientated. So if you can embody calm and light, you will be a beacon and will be able to guide and serve them. This transformational breathing practice combines the solfeggio frequency, 417 Hz, the frequency of releasing negativity, renewal and rebirth, with deep belly breathing and visualization to release the darkness and amplify the light that is in you always. You may choose to be seated, cross-legged, on the ground, in a chair or lying down. Make your choice and come to stillness. Allow your breathing to fall into its natural pattern. As you inhale, feel the breath pass in through your nostrils. Place the tip of your tongue gently behind your teeth and let your jaw be loose. Scan your body and notice any areas where you are holding tension. Release it into the ground as you breathe. Place your right hand on your lower belly. Track your breath as it fills your belly, your lungs, and your chest. And when you exhale, empty fully. Your belly and your hand will return inward. Now we'll slow the pace of the breath. We will be inhaling for 4 counts and exhaling for 4 counts. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. And continue to maintain this steady pattern with your breath. As you inhale, envisage a light beginning to glow within your body, starting at your heart and growing gradually brighter. On your exhale, the light remains, and fear and tension and darkness is freed from your body. Again, with your inhale, see that light within you grow and establish itself. And exhale, releasing the tensions, the fear, the worry. See that light grow, and grow with your inhale. Exhale, and you can think in your mind or whisper, go, to any fear, worry, and tension. On your next inhale, feel more light shining from you. See it as golden white, sparkling, radiating from your heart throughout your entire body. Glistening. Exhale any emotion that cannot serve you in this moment. Go. See your light glowing, banishing any shadows. See that you are luminous. See that you are brilliant, glowing, growing. Exhale fear, exhale worry. Go. Continue this pattern, turning up the intensity of the light with every inhale, releasing the darkness as you exhale. As this practice ends, impress upon your mind and in your body the sensations you feel now. That new light, that radiance, the expansiveness, the brilliance, the love. They are with you always. At any moment during the day, when you notice tensions, overwhelm and fear attempt to engulf you, remind yourself of this feeling. Know that with each deep, complete breath, you bring the light into your body and into your surroundings. Give light, and the darkness will disappear of itself. From Dutch philosopher Desiderius Erasmus.